Legendary rapper Tupac Shakur is finally getting justice for the 1996 tragedy. For those of you who are new here, make sure y'all hit that like button, like, comment, subscribe. It's your girl Receipts with Real, and we're going to dive right in. Duane Keefe D Davis has been charged with murder in the Tupac Shakur case. Now, the interesting thing about all of this is Duane told on himself. Okay, so the police would have never figured this out, or they probably wouldn't have cared, because I'm sure they've already known, but they wouldn't have cared if he wouldn't have gone on Vlad TV and multiple other interviews stating that he had something to do with this tragedy. This story is definitely a story that I wanted to cover because Tupac was my father's all-time favorite rapper. When my dad used to pick me up, my dad is from Detroit, Michigan, and he would pick me up. I would go with him for the summers, or, he would pick me up on the weekends. And I kid y'all not, my dad, he would make me listen to NPR radio. We had to listen to the news first. And then as soon as he got done, we blasting Tupac. There's not a Tupac lyric that I don't know. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it is what it is. So I personally grew up listening to the legendary Tupac. My dad was the type, he didn't even play Biggie in his car. That's how much of a Tupac fan he was. So to see Tupac finally beginning to receive some justice 27 years later, it's crazy.
East Coast Crip, they're like, hey, they just jumped on your nephew. Like, ooh, said some death row niggas. Like, bullshit. They're like, yeah. And we ran into the lane inside the lobby.
So y'all ran into your nephew Orlando. What did he say to you?
Weirdo, he just said they jumped on him and stuff like that.
How mad was he?
I was more mad than him. Kilos and shit. They like, man, we know where them niggas gonna be. They gonna be at the 662 Club. They been advertising this all week. They gonna perform this night. So we went up there. And my little homies went and got the choppers. We was in 3 cars, matter of fact. And the other 2 cars missed the light. So we kept on going, heading towards the hotel. When we got to Flamingo, that's when dude was hanging out. He was like he was in a parade or something. Stupid ass, hanging out the window.
So that was the man that was arrested the other day in connection with Tupac's shooting. That's the alleged shooter's uncle. And he went on about 10 different interviews, y'all, saying his versions of events of what happened that night. He even went as far as to write a book about what happened that night. You can't make this up. This is crazy. But you probably can't understand what he said because half of these interviews, he was drunk, y'all. He barely can talk. He be slurring his words. So I'm going to go ahead and break down to y'all everything that happened. Orlando Anderson, Tupac's alleged killer, and his friend Corey Edwards allegedly shot Suge Knight's bodyguard Jake. Then, a couple of weeks later, Orlando allegedly assaulted Trayvon Lane, a member of Death Row, and he snatched his chain. So, while they were at the event, they were at a fight night, I believe, and Tupac Shakur spotted Orlando it was at the Mike Tyson fight, and knocked him out. Anderson was jumped by 5 people in the footage. Anderson went on to tell his uncle, Duane, and the rest of the Crip members what had happened, and he told them that it was from Suge Knight's crew, Death Row. So, basically, from what Keefe D said out his own mouth, he said Orlando wasn't even all that mad, but he told him, nah, you got to get revenge. We got to get revenge on them. So they went to an event where they knew that Tupac was going to be performing, and they waited on him. While they were at the event, they didn't see him. So they ended up leaving, and when they left, they caught Tupac in traffic. Tupac was shot at while in the vehicle with Suge Knight, and he did not die immediately, but he ended up dying a few days later at the hospital. Many people speculated who they thought killed Tupac. It was so many rumors going around. They blamed it on the beef that he had with Biggie, and they were assuming that P. Diddy and Biggie had something to do with his death. It was even speculated that Suge Knight had something to do with it, and Suge Knight didn't really help the situation because he would always make little innuendos about it, almost like he would deny that he had something to do with it, but then he would almost make you think that he did have something to do with it just because of the little jokes that he used to say. And even when Orlando's uncle admitting to have something to do with the murder, Suge Knight would come back and say, no, it wasn't him. It wasn't them. I know who did it. So Suge Knight didn't even know what happened. But all these years, he was getting clout off the situation. Or maybe he did know what happened. He just didn't want to give them people credit for it, because why would you not do anything about it if you actually knew who murdered Tupac? You know what I'm saying? What I find crazy about this entire situation is so many people alluded to having something to do with Tupac's death or knowing who did it, but the LAPD never did anything about it. And I also find it crazy that the alleged killer, he even did interviews about the situation. And although he denied it, you just got to look in his eyes. He was being very sarcastic this whole entire interview.
Ask you point blank, did you kill Tupac Shakur?
I didn't kill Tupac. I mean, I don't know why, you know what I'm saying? They would even say something like that. I mean, I just want to tell everyone that, I didn't do it. And so I feel sorry for him, you know what I'm saying, his fans and his family and friends.
Were you involved in any way in the death of Tupac Shakur?
No, I was not involved. I mean, I'm like a victim, you know what I'm saying? I feel, you know what I'm saying, sorry for him. And, like I said, I was a fan of him.
Were you involved?
So they continue to troll with these type of interviews, but karma don't miss. It don't miss nobody. And Orlando ended up meeting his own demise not even a year or two after Tupac. Orlando's grandmother ended up getting sick, and while he was visiting her at the hospital, he was hungry, so he went to go grab some burgers. He went to the spot called Mom's Burgers, and across the street was this place called Compton Car Wash. And he ended up running into Jerry Stone, and Jerry Stone and Orlando argued about some debt owed. And Anderson ended up shooting Jerry Stone twice, and he killed him. And then Jerry's brother shot Orlando in the chest. Now, Michael Duro, which was Orlando's friend that was with him at the time, he then killed Jerry's brother. So Officer Ray Richardson, who arrived on the scene, he tried to get a confession out of Orlando while he was dying. And he asked him, did you kill Tupac? And his dying words to the police were, forget you. And I'm not going to say, y'all know what he really said. So for 27 years, Tupac's murder was never solved. Although many people speculated what happened, nobody actually knew the truth. After Orlando passed away, for some reason, his uncle just started getting liquor courage and decided to just start doing a bunch of interviews, and even going as far as writing a book to tell what happened.
He even wrote a book about it where he went into grave details about what happened that night.
One thing I just got to say real quick is, to these rappers and entertainers, y'all gonna get enough of going on Vlad TV and going on all these different talk shows telling on yourself. Or just going live or anything, because this is not the first time that somebody has been arrested behind a Vlad TV type of interview. And this wouldn't be the first time that somebody was harmed behind going on interviews like this. So I don't really understand the purpose of it. But in my mind, I want to say that sometimes people just can't live with the guilt. So it's like they want everybody else to share the guilt with them. It's like, I can't hold it in no more, so I want y'all to know what's going on. And if I go to jail, I go to jail. But I really don't know what this dude Keefe's problem was, because if you ask me, he thought he was invincible. He thought that there was some sort of statute of limitations on murder, which there isn't, and he thought that they got away with it. So he continued to go on more and more interviews.
Talk about what happens next. You know, based on what the book says, Zip gave you guys a Glock, and you guys tossed it in the back seat. This was the white Cadillac.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys are driving around, and then you hear these girls say, "Tupac, Tupac."
No, we coming up, what's the name? What's that, Flamingo? Yeah, I think that's Flamingo. He's coming up Flamingo and got to the light. He was going to go drink, smoke some weed, and he happened to be hanging out the window. He's hanging out the window like he was in a parade.
Tupac.
Yeah, he was.
So what happens next?
And we just came, and shit. I ain't gonna go into details like that, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, you got it in the book. You done played it, everything else, you know what I'm saying?
Car
That's what I
started shooting at Tupac and Suge.
Lane starts blasting. You say Suge looks over, he sees you.
Yeah.
He looks right at you.
Yeah, he looked at me.
Okay. When he looks over at you, and then Tupac's busy getting shot. Evidently, the story is Tupac's trying to either get out of
In
the
the
line.
back seat or something.
Yeah. What do you see happening inside their
Jumping
car?
in. I seen a bullet going Suge's head. I thought he was dead.
So Orlando shot him across Dre?
He leaned over on the window, we rolled down the window, popped.
Who was it?
They would drove on my side, I would have popped him.
So y'all heard it there. Orlando Anderson was the alleged shooter of Tupac Shakur. He's no longer living. And the LAPD, I guess somebody finally decided to light some fire under them, because back in July, they served a search warrant to Duane Keefe D, and they raided his wife's house. Whatever they found in that house back in July was enough for them to charge him. And if you really think about it, that's really crazy, y'all. Almost 30 years later, he had enough evidence in that house for him to get charged. I mean, when I really think about that, that's one of the most craziest things I've ever heard, which leads me to believe that he was holding on to some type of evidence as a trophy. This man, that was like the biggest thing for him that he ever accomplished in his life. Because you ain't never heard about him before. Like I said, he sounded like a drunk uncle. So for him, that was like his prized possession. I don't know exactly what they found in that house. We will find out during the court proceedings. But this man was not smart at all. And if he had any type of friends or any type of, legal advice, they would have told him to stop doing all of this bragging that he was doing. But it caught up to him. So LAPD, they got him. I hate that it took 27 years. I hate that it took so long. I hate that they never prioritized Tupac's death. But, the police didn't really like him because Tupac was a spokesperson for Black issues in the community. And that's one thing that I want to focus on. I know a lot of the young people don't actually know who Tupac is. They hear about him, but they don't really know. Tupac was a rapper, and don't get me wrong, he made a lot of mistakes. He was in the streets, but the difference between Tupac and a lot of the rappers was he actually said whatever came to mind. That man, he had no problem calling out police for police brutality. He had no problem speaking on community issues. He's the person who made the song Brenda's Got a Baby. And he's the person who made the song, Dear Mama. He made classics. So I just want Tupac to be remembered for his classics. I want him to be remembered for his amazing acting skills. If y'all ever seen Poetic Justice, Juice, that man was definitely well on his way to becoming a legend. And even though his career was cut short, he's still a legend to this day. It's unfortunate that, you know, his mom and everybody else couldn't get this justice back then, but we have it now, so we do have some sort of closure now. Y'all comment down below. Let me know what you think about this entire situation. Why do you think that it took the LAPD so long to arrest this man, knowing what they knew, because these interviews were out years ago? Why do you think that this man kept going on interviews? Do you think that he actually wanted to be caught, or do you think that he believed that the statute of limitations had passed, or that he was invincible because he didn't actually pull the trigger per se? Y'all subscribe, comment down below, let me know your opinions, and I might do a part 2, so stay tuned.